New York State's Department of Health is backing the legalization of recreational marijuana. In a 74-page report, the department said the positive effects outweigh the negatives. It now goes to Governor Andrew Cuomo for review and likely rejection. But recently, the Democrat, who is seeking re-election in November, signaled he is more open to legalizing marijuana. Cuomo has long been wary of efforts to legalize, calling marijuana a gateway drug as recently as last year. Cuomo's shift follows a trend recently reported on by Politico Magazine. The article, "Could Legal Marijuana Tip the Senate for Democrats?" explores how cautious incumbents are backing the efforts in a move to sway voters. James Higdon is the author of that piece. He's a freelance journalist who writes about drug policy for Politico Magazine, and he joins me now from Louisville, Kentucky. All right, Jim, walk me through why Democratic incumbents are moving closer to outright support for legalizing just for fun marijuana.
Well, hi there. Thanks for having me. So it really depends on the state whether the Democrats and the incumbents are advocating for full recreational marijuana or merely for medical marijuana. For instance, in Florida, Bill Nelson has come out in favor of medical marijuana, but he's still made statements opposing recreational marijuana at the moment. Whereas if you look at a state like Nevada, where Jackie Rosen is trying to unseat Dean Heller, she is 100% behind recreational marijuana in that state.
Well,
and it's
why
just
do it? Are they doing it? Are they doing it because it's the right thing to do, or are they doing it because it's a thing they need to do in order to sway voters?
Well, I certainly wouldn't try to get in the head of a politician as to what their motives are, but it just seems that the tipping point for public sentiment on this issue has begun to move, and politicians tend to be a lagging indicator in terms of where the public is, and they're starting to get on board.
In North Dakota, voters are going to face a choice of whether to legalize medical marijuana. That's coming up in November. President Trump won that state with nearly 63% of the vote in 2016, and you've got a Democratic senator there facing a tough bid for re-election. What's her stance on medical marijuana, which is going to be on the ballot this fall?
So just to clarify, medical marijuana passed in North Dakota in 2016 with about the same vote margin as Donald Trump had in North Dakota. And the ballot measure that's going to be in North Dakota this time around is full recreational.
Full recreational.
When I reached out to Senator Heidkamp for this story, the comment I got back from her Senate office was essentially, this is up for the people of North Dakota to decide, and once they decide it, the federal government should respect that decision. So she's taking a stance, kind of a standoffish stance, but one that where she seeks to protect the will of the voters of her state.
So the operating theory here is that if she comes out in favor of medical marijuana, or any Democratic comes out in favor of marijuana legalization, medical or recreational, it's going to push more people to the polls, and if they're going to the polls, they're going to pull the lever for the Democrat.
I was told by one of my sources in Nevada that when marijuana is on the ballot, there tends to be an uptick in voter turnout. And so Democrats are really relying on this. In Missouri, where Claire McCaskill is in a tough re-election race, medical marijuana is on the Missouri ballot, and that could be a critical factor in these races that are going to be really narrow. Between 1 point, 2 point races, it could be just the issue that tips the balance one way or the other.
So why not put it on her platform then officially, McCaskill?
Well, that's a very good question, and I reached out and asked this question to her campaign. She has made a statement in January saying that medical marijuana is the right way to go, but her campaign website does not mention marijuana. She's not a co-sponsor of major pro-marijuana legislation in the Senate. So it seems like a putting her toe in the water, sort of gradually getting herself comfortable with an issue that has not been something that she's been comfortable talking about in the past. So it's one of these instances of a Democratic incumbent being, kind of new to this issue in the process of evolving.
So we have a situation where marijuana legalization, if you look at the Gallup polls, support is above 60%, but that support is clustered in certain states. So we've got North Dakota, Missouri, Nevada, not places where necessarily there's a majority, but seem to be maybe moving in that direction. Why do you think those states right now, traditionally conservative states, are taking up this traditionally liberal issue in November?
You know, I don't think it. I think it's an issue that doesn't cut between liberal and conservative the way other issues might. There's a lot of independent, a lot of libertarian-minded people who are conservative on a lot of issues who still think that marijuana ought to be legalized. And when you look at Western states like Oklahoma that just passed it by 57% on their primary ballot, or up in North Dakota, you've got a lot of people who live out in rural property who just want the government to leave them alone.
Yeah. All right, Jimmy Higdon, I appreciate you coming on and talking to us. He's with Politico Magazine. You should come back and talk about hemp in Kentucky. That's the great frontier,
all the time,
right?
man. I can talk your ear off about hemp in Kentucky.
All right, we'll have you back. Thank you very much.